Welcome back to This Week in Gaming, the show where I recap everything I talked about in gaming news this week in case you missed it. Let's talk about it. Starting with an indie dev is upset because they think Silksong is too good and too cheap. Everybody loves Silksong, except for the difficulty and some indie devs. Because an indie dev was upset that Silksong only cost $20 because their game was also only going to cost $20, but it only lasts for 10 hours. In other words, they felt that that game was such a great bargain that it would actually hurt their game because their game wouldn't be the same in comparison. Then Randy Pitchford was asked about Stop Killing Games, and his answer was really deep. He says he knows how they feel because he's lost video games too, and he knows how emotional it can be, so he respects their movement. And then he went on to talk about how he knows that eventually we're all just going to be gone and just a memory, and he got really emotional about it, which was really touching. Then Borderlands 4 came out, and people are having trouble playing it, at least half the people out there, because it looks like Borderlands is a little picky about the hardware that you're using, so some people can't even launch the game, and when they do, they only get about 30 frames a second or less. There was a day one patch, but it doesn't seem to have really helped. Then Gearbox gave out some settings that you should be using to try to get the best performance possible. Then in PS6 leaks, we found out that it's going to include an optional optical drive. According to this leak, because times are so uncertain, shipping is going to be an issue, so they're actually going to make a console that has an optional disk drive, so that way you don't have to pay for the extra stuff if you're not going to use it. And the same leak said that the PS6 is going to be more basic looking. That makes it easier for them to produce more PS6s. Then Moore's Law is Dead just gave out PS6 specs. According to Moore's Law is Dead, the PS6 is going to be capable of rasterizing 2 to 3 times faster than the PS5. And ray tracing is going to be 5 to 10 times faster on the PS6 compared to the PS5. When playing on PS5 hardware, games like Alan Wake get about 10 frames a second when ray tracing is turned on. If these specs are accurate, the PS6 is going to be capable of reaching 60 frames a second and even up to 120 frames a second once you include PSSR or whatever that stuff's called. Then Nintendo sent somebody to bankruptcy. Ryan Daly, who was a modder that offered things like the MIG Switch or modifications for your Switch, got sued by Nintendo. Nintendo offered to back down if he took down his website. He said he would do that, but then he didn't do it, so Nintendo went to court. But he didn't hire a lawyer, and he decided to defend himself with stuff that made 0 sense. So in the end, the law sided with Nintendo, and now he owes Nintendo $2 million, and he's never allowed to use any modding hardware ever again. And Nintendo also settled their lawsuit with Genki. Before Nintendo had revealed the Switch 2, Genki came out with a 3D print of what the Switch 2 was supposed to look like. Genki tried to make jokes of it, saying that they had their ninjas steal this information, so Nintendo actually questioned them about it, and Genki pretended like they didn't do anything wrong. So once they got sued by Nintendo, Genki decided to settle, and they have an undisclosed amount of money that is going to be given to Nintendo, and now they're no longer allowed to use any names that they used to use that are too similar to Nintendo's names. And lastly, Nintendo had their Direct, and it was a very massive one. It lasted about an hour, and there's just way too much to cover, so it's worth watching. But the big things are Metroid Prime 4 got a release date, and Hyrule Warriors got a release date. And that was everything that I covered this week in gaming, so if you want more details, go back and watch the videos that I posted because I go more in depth. And if you want to find out more about gaming news, fun facts, and history, make sure you hit that follow button. I'll see you next time.